This is old map compilation, MAP11 now. I don't actually think this was like the 11th map I'd made out of these in that order or anything. There was a bit of laying these out by difficulty. This one's probably actually slightly harder to complete than the next because it's quite possible to get stuck near the end in a pit of lava. So hopefully I don't befall that, or that fate doesn't befall me rather, but we'll have a look and find out. Let's get going. Straight away here we've got relatively consistent brown here. Obviously that wall's lowered a little bit to let you know there's something going on there. This is a standard case of using the wrong texture. A couple of ways could be that could be addressed. Either some sort of lip there to at least make it look like the grates closed off, or just use the non-grated version of that texture and then have the grate in there as a detailing sector. Straight away there, a slight visual improvement. So we've ambushed that chain gunner there. Completely differently themed room, 4 texture cards again. And cage magnifier. So I'm fairly certain this is working because it's GZDoom. I don't think those two are able to engage properly normally. The old grey tool there that you just don't see very often. It's the red stripe, it's quite unpopular. I'm fairly certain in an earlier version of this map it used to be that there was a trigger in line with these walls here that you needed to press rather than walk across to open that. So progression was really opaque. So I think that's one of the few times where when I was compiling these I actually fixed it, because it wasn't so much that it didn't look good as it was actually just an error, like it was broken in somewhere. Now once again we've got a sort of disjointed teleportation based progression. And this room here could be in the iWad. Like appearance wise there's very little out of place with this room. Of course that doesn't last very long. Straight away we've got a teleporter back doesn't function, and these walls, it's not particularly attractive design there. Strangely the diagonal does work there but doesn't work there. Probably just a side effect of the sizes. So I think visually this one so far is about par for the course as I was developing. Not like perfectly aligned textures or anything, but the overall aesthetic is a bit neater. Doors are still quite chunky, so I think the rooms here are starting to look like I may have been following the iWad design a bit more closely, ignoring the texture cards and perhaps the extreme verticality here. If these crates had been half the height, it might have been better. Let's get a bit more inconsistent. I think there was a certain excitement when I was making these to try and make use of the textures. So obviously if you haven't made maps before then you haven't used half the textures either. So perhaps I was just keen to try out everything, see what it looked like in game, work out where I could and couldn't place them. It's strange here that I get given a yellow key when I didn't know what the use for it was, unless I looked around there and just about saw the bars. But then the key's revealed to me. That to me would suggest that if anything it would have been better to show that there was a door there that I couldn't get to until this had been moved and the switch was up there, perhaps with a window showing this way. It's quite a visually striking room this, with the extreme contrast in the start. On the other hand, the design means that you can't step up there, so you have to step into this part of the star. All the same, quite happy with that. Of course, it was quite easy to drop in a pentagon in DEU because it had a polygon insertion tool where you could literally just specify a number of sides and up to 32 and a radius, and it would just put that in there. It wouldn't be aligned to the grid or anything, but it would be a regular sort of X-sided polygon, and that was quite handy. Something that I don't think you need so much with DEU, with Doom Builder, because DEU itself had a much slower insertion process. This here kind of is dark, but I give you the tools anyway to get through it. This Arachnotron's unfortunately stuck, otherwise it's placed. It'd be quite an effective battle. And once again we've got more teleports here. Probably a strange choice to use that there. I mean, with a little bit of bit more architectural fidelity, that could actually be like a nice effect. As it is now, it obviously clashes on the corner there. And doubly strange here that even though these textures are used, or sorry, this flat is used here on the ceiling, it isn't used there and has a weird texture cut off as a result. So I must have been thinking about this kind of thing, because it's all aligned to the 32 grid anyway. That's I quite like the cave in the sky idea. I think there was an Aliens Doom episode I saw where they had sky in the floor. I mean, obviously it's in Doom 2 as well, but I think I really noticed it in this Alien Doom because it looked like it was a sky corridor rather than just a strange exit. It's quite a nice effect, and it was quite a good thing to get in there, especially in a sort of a high contrast cave. Now, realistically, you could have been hit there. Obviously, modern difficulty and reaction being what it is, it's nowhere near the same. As we've got a BFG on those, so for some bit of effort. This map, I've not been quite so oversupplied. With the lack of secrets, it's not as bad either. See, that one there, because it was an obvious dead end, it was a bit more clear that turning around was the idea. Okay, the oversupply now is kicked in, but I think that's because I'm actually about to embark on a sort of highly challenging segment. So it's not as egregious as it was last time. Showing the light application visor is. There we go. See, things look a bit better when they're not pitted. So here we've got a large sort of volcano, or other sort of igneous rocks and we've got sort of threat from the pits falling into a man because of the flying enemies coming out. Got imps that can attack from high up and far away. It's quite an ambitiously scaled area, and obviously there's a lot of enemies making it more dangerous. You've got an ultimate goal there, that teleporter that one of the Cacodooms has just taken. I think there's a bit of design this one. Probably, for the ambition at least, steps a bit beyond a lot of before. I think with visual fidelity it was probably could be better. Maybe a bit of detail around these large outer walls rather than just leaving them sheer and blank. Likewise, that upper texture definitely should have been a continuation of the rock. Just from a visual perspective, that's quite bad. Obviously, you fall into these pits, there are teleporters down there, although they're few and far between. And the lava is very damaging. So we've got a little bit of sort of platforming here, jumping over where the steps go around below. Which I think is fairly acceptable and standard Doom practice. Definitely was back in the 90s. The few WODs I'd played back then, they were quite happy to have you jumping over the previously taken path. Now this section here, up to no lowers, so as you run across it, the pit will lower there, giving you a sort of an element of risk that you didn't have before. And if you don't make it in time, that is the map option. So I'll do my best to avoid that. It doesn't matter how good you are at Doom there, the time in that, it's down to the mapper there as to how easy it is to make, and you just have to be running basically. So that's quite a nice thing. Obviously the sheer excess of that drop means that you'd be stuck on that for ages before getting stuck in the poison and then having to die and start the level again. So I suppose for the length of the map, okay, so we've made it through. A couple of shotguns there. I've probably missed one of the enemies in that lava pit area. Almost definitely, in fact. Even that exit switch there, if I'd have just raised that by 8 units, that would have been a successful bit of detail there. I mean, you can barely see it walking into the room. In fact, in vanilla you can't see it, because you can't look up. yeah, so I've got to the end of this one successfully there. It's another relatively ambitious map. Obviously it's not anywhere near as ambitious as things became. Like I hadn't seen, I still don't think I'd seen things like Hell Revealed or anything like that yet. I believe I did have some maps that I could play, but they were mostly sort of 90s that came with the book I had at the time. Yeah, I feel like that's wrapped this one up nicely. I've got one more map in the old map compilation. There would have been more if they'd survived the process, but a lot of them were like they just didn't make it because of the unreliability with the node builder in the EU. I think if you exceeded the memory limit, that caused a crash on node building, which would lose your work. It was something that you could work around, as I remember I actually started backing up my own WODs by saving to 2 separate files as I was working my way up. And so when I got to sort of any issues or whatever, I had a backup. So I guess it's an early lesson in, you know, looking after your files, something that obviously with Doom Builder is less required. It turns out our last hack at anyway. Yeah, although saying that, I've noticed modern Mac editors still like to crash on saving. It's still a risky process there. If ever it's going to happen, it'll be on a save and then you lose an hour's work or whatever. But obviously the backup's built in there if you've been saving on your way up to it. Back then we didn't have automatic backups. And also as we were testing using the command line, or I was testing using the command line, the whole process was pretty slow. It was quite easy to sort of, if something got deleted, to not try and rebuild it and just sort of learn the lesson and move on there, because there was a lot of going back and forth. Like to check the visuals would have required leaving the editor and then starting up the game using the command line, and obviously that meant saving the map. Obviously these days you don't need to save a map to test it. So there's all so it's all been changed, and as I carry on through this series you will eventually see that. I'll wrap this up now. So until next time.